Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Christmas Eve edition of the Paranormal Portal. Happy holidays to you, and it is a momentous eve. I have to make it short tonight because I got a little 3-foot tornado waiting to decimate yards and yards of wrapping paper, and he knows that he's waiting on me. So you can understand the pressure I'm under tonight, you guys, about making this a little shorter, but it's going to be, a 15, 20-minute show tonight. I hope you guys understand. I do intend on coming back tomorrow night and spending Christmas night with you guys. But I'm going to make it a little quicker tonight because you can't stand between a little 3-year-old and a pile of presents. It's just not natural. It's not right. But anyway, I hope you guys are ready because it's time for bed. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I, of course, am your host, Brent Thomas. You are watching the Paranormal Portal's Bedtime Stories From Beyond, and I hope you're having a great holiday season. It's here. We're in it. This is it. I even gave us a different color moon tonight, just a little more aqua blue, because, I don't know, it's kind of a magical night, right? It's the night where old St. Nick decides to start throwing down on people's chimneys and just eating cookies and doing his magic that it is that he do. So I'm just here to do the magic that it is that I do, which is try to get through an episode of the Portal without amazing technical difficulties. But so far, we're doing great. But I love you all. Thanks for being here, and let's get this boat underway. So this one was kind of a long one, but I don't know. I'm going to read it anyway. I don't know. Let me just look here quick. I pulled up a handful of stories because I knew I had to pick. God, every one of them I picked was huge. That's huge. Wow, I can pick them, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, there isn't a short one I pulled up tonight. Well, I'm going to read probably 2 of these then because they're enormous. So the first one I'm going to bring you tonight is, my encounters with the paranormal have mostly been much more unexciting, but this is perhaps the most interesting experience that I've had. First of all, you need to know a little background to the story and the events that preceded it. I share the same name with my paternal grandfather's favorite older brother, who tragically perished while serving in the military during World War I. My grandfather was apparently very appreciative when he heard what my name was going to be, and my dad has said that he thought that it established a special bond between the both of us, and that he was very fond of me when I was very young. Sadly, though, we hardly got the chance to know each other. My dad was working as an expatriate in Southeast Asia, while my grandparents lived in Melbourne, Australia. Traveling was not cheap, and the distance between our countries was quite long, so we only saw each other every 2 or 3 years, and my memory of grandfather is really pretty vague. By the time I was 10, I had not seen my grandfather in 4 years. In 1981, that looked likely to change, and my father accepted a job position in Sydney and was preparing to relocate our family there. And that meant we would be able to see my paternal grandparents on a much more regular basis, since we were both in the same country. We were all looking forward to this arrangement, and I'll try to be brief about this, but I do want to emphasize that in the months leading up to our move back to Australia, I started to get this strong instinct or feeling that we needed that time was running out for my grandfather. That wasn't very well written, but I read it like it is. Part of this may have been due to the common sense and what my parents had told me about him, that he had suffered from a series of strokes and that his health was deteriorating, although his short-term prognosis was not unduly alarming. But it nevertheless was quite a strong feeling, and I remember having a dream about it about 1 or 2 months before we were due to move. I later learned that my grandfather had exactly the same feeling, that time was running out for him, and he had expressed to my dad a desire to see my mother and his grandchildren as soon as possible. When my dad told him we would visit him at Christmas, he gave my dad the distinct impression that he thought that he wouldn't be around for that long. I'm not sure if there was some sort of spiritual connection between our thoughts, but I was thinking of him on the night of his death. My grandfather died approximately 10 days before we moved to his country, and we would have been closer to him. It was a deep blow for all of us, because we were all looking forward to seeing him again. That Christmas, we all went down to visit my grandmother in Melbourne for the trip that was supposed to have reunited us with both grandparents, but I think we all felt a keen sense of loss and sadness that we were so close and yet so very far away from seeing my grandfather. My grandmother had moved out of her bedroom to accommodate us, and it was the room which she had shared with my grandfather since they had moved into the house just over 2 decades ago. My mother and I were sharing the room while my dad and sister were sharing the other room. It was late on our first night there, and my mother was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, and I was alone playing with my toys when suddenly I heard a male voice coming from near the cupboard by the window. It said, "Hello, welcome to Melbourne." I was frightened out of my wits. I knew I was alone in the room and that the voice wasn't supposed to be there. I ran out of the room, and I can't remember if I was screaming or hollering or what, but I remember being distinctly frightened. My parents came and comforted me, and in the end, I went back to the room. My mother came in not long afterward, and there was no further incidents that night. Despite what happened, it didn't deter me from spending time alone in the room after that. Afterwards, even to this day, I feel really guilty about my reaction in being frightened and running out of the room, even though I accept that it was somewhat understandable that a 10-year-old with no experience interacting with paranormal occurrences would have that reaction. I have no doubt that the voice in question was that of my grandfather, and I strongly believe that one of the reasons that he was still in the room was because he had unfinished business of not having seen his grandchildren for so long before he died. My grandmother was not aware of all that had happened, and we decided not to tell her for fear that it may upset or distress her, and sometime later, for whatever reason, my dad did tell her about the experience. My grandmother was a straightforward, no-nonsense type of person, and I felt sure that she would dismiss my story as ridiculous nonsense. To my surprise, she implied that that she had sensed his presence around, and that it had been a while after his death before she finally felt that he had left to continue his journey to whatever the next life took him. Even though I reacted badly to that encounter with my grandfather, I am grateful for having had it, and am touched that my grandfather loved us enough to want to reach out to us from beyond the grave to make up for not being able to see us before he died. I love you, Grandpa. May you rest in peace until we meet again on those distant shores of the afterlife. Cool story. Nothing over the top on that one, but again, cool. Okay, and then I'll probably read this one. We'll see where we're at. That actually didn't take as long as I thought it would, so that's good. The next one is, this happened a few short years ago, and I'd been invited to a wonderful but small gathering of family and friends, and we would be celebrating the holidays together, and I was really happy. As soon as I entered the residence, I was assaulted by an onslaught of muddy air. It was like walking into a thick air. As it was, I was draped in festive sweater and slacks, and I started to sweat immediately, and I started to feel a bit woozy, and I hate it when this happens because I have to keep smiling, pretend nothing is happening. I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable, and I felt the nighttime glasses sliding down my nose, and I wear these big old glasses so I can see. Getting older has its negatives, but I refuse to go in for eye surgery. I don't blame you. Yes, I have tried contacts, but they're more uncomfortable than the glasses, so I'll just stick to looking goofy. Sorry, back to my experience. I was getting a lot of signals from an entity, and it was apparent that this spirit or soul wanted my attention, so much so that my legs kept buckling out from under me. Can you imagine being at a party and seeing paranormal activity and having to act like you don't? I did my best to ignore him, but he towered over me the entire night and kept demanding I help him. I gathered up the courage to go talk to my host and either leave or do something to help this trapped soul. To make a long story short, my host asked me to stay, and after the last holiday guest left, I sent this soul onward. Out of respect and request for privacy, I have not mentioned more about the info here. The host requested a cleansing be done as well, so I did so, although it wasn't necessary, but sometimes just going through the ritual will help the people left behind. The stuck soul moved on easily, as you can see. There's a photo as well. Okay. Let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. Save images. Energy. Let's put this on the desktop. I didn't realize there was going to be a picture as well, but what the heck? Might as well make it. Oh, perfect. Okay, let me see if I can find it quick for you guys. Sorry to be so ill-prepared, but it's been a really busy day. However, a good day. Oh my God, could that be any smaller? Good Lord. All right, well, that's as big as I can make it, but let me get to the back to this, and I'll put it up on the screen for you guys to see, and then we'll read what the person's talking about with the image. So, there's the image, and it says, to make a long story short, the stuck soul moved on easily. As you can see, the photo taken from the party, my energy/aura/life force is clearly being pulled up through my open palm and atop my head. You can see the entity standing across from me. He appears in a bright gold bend of light, and there is a white mist along the floor and atop the ceiling, but it doesn't show in the picture. It's actually on this person's website. The entity? He was a deceased, obviously relative of the hostess, who had died after suffering from dementia. This is what he carried in his spiritual body, and it took a few years for him to appear lucid enough to understand what I was gently explaining. When he got it, he was excited to go. It was amazing to watch him walk into a white portal of ethereal light, and I was finally able to go home and drop into a very deep sleep. They managed to find me, the deceased, and if I am led to help, I do so. I listen for a higher source. God leads me in every step I take. I am just a working tool to be used for greater good. It has nothing to do with me, and I take no credit here. Oh, and I did post a picture on my website photos page, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know what website photo page that is, but you can see there's some very distinct color shifts here. It's really, really pixelated, though. It's hard to make out anything real concrete, but I do see the light, I don't know. It does look like a golden light coming from here and here. I assume this is the band of light this person is referring to as the entity. Very cool. I don't see any obvious places for any kind of lens flaring, and if you were going to fake this, you would have to take a photo like this through like a piece of plexiglass or something, and then these discoloration lights would have to be a light reflection. But I'm assuming the person has at least a little integrity and didn't do that. So I guess we'll just take it at face value, but perhaps that is a pretty good capture. Very cool. And I really respect people that go out of their way to help transition spirits. That's a tough thing. And if you have the ability and you're capable of doing that, what a great thing to do. You know, what a great gift to give, that you can help these stuck souls move on, because that's got to be a horrible thing to be stuck. So, very cool. And a little visual treat here on the portal. And then one more. Which one of these more am I going to read? All right, one more. And then well, actually, this is really pretty long. Let me see if I can find a short one. Just a little short one for you. The Little Angels. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, this one's not too bad. I'll read this one, and then I do got to go because the little man is jonesing for some gifts. Long time ago, when me and my sister were young, we went to visit my aunt, and I was going to be her birthday, or it was going to be her birthday, so our parents made her a surprise party. My sister and I were so bored, and we wanted to walk around her street and get some fresh air, and I remember it was really dark and cold, and nobody really lived by there, so as we were walking, we stopped to hear the voices of children. I was 14 at the time, and my sister was 8, but the weird thing is, when we looked, nobody was there. So we just kept on walking, but I had tripped on something, and I fell. We looked down and saw a railroad track. It was so scary because it wasn't there a minute ago. My sister was so scared she started to cry, but I told her it was okay and we would just go home. But it wasn't okay. I was lost, and I didn't want to tell her and make her cry more. As we were standing there, a little girl and a little boy popped up out of nowhere. They looked really pale and scary, as if they were dead, and I asked them their names, and they said Sarah and Jack. I asked them if they knew how to get to a road that would lead us home, and they both helped us. They walked us to the street, and as soon as I saw my aunt's house, I was so happy, and I asked them if they wanted to come in, and they just stood there. I ran to tell my parents. They just looked at us as if we were crazy, and I pulled my mom and to the door to show her the kids that helped us, but they were gone. We looked for them, but it was as if they vanished without a trace. My aunt freaked out when we told her the names, and she told us a story I will never forget. She said, a long time ago, there was an accident. A bus had broke down on top of the railroad tracks, and they tried to get out of the door, but it wouldn't open, and all of a sudden a train was coming. They were all trapped, all 17 of them, including the driver, and they all died in a crash. And ever since then, people say that they see them. And when you park your car on top of the railroad tracks, they push your car out of the way in case a train comes. They can save you and even have streets named after them. But I couldn't believe it. I looked at my aunt and my sister, and I stayed quiet all night. The next morning we were ready to go, and we said goodbye to my aunt and got in the car, and as we left, I saw the names Susan and Jack on street signs, and ever since that day, I've called them angels. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is tonight's short episode of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond, but don't you fret. I will be back tomorrow night and give you a proper journey. But I love you all. Have a wonderful holiday. Just be close and love those around you, and just know that I love you all. Seriously, you guys are amazing, and I'm just honored to share parts of this holiday with you guys. So thank you very much. Friday night, as a reminder, Deb will be here. Deb Varner will be on the show doing free readings to callers. And, oh, Kurt. Oh, man. Kurt says, thanks for all you and Don have done this year. It's been fun. Happy holidays to both of you and all. Oh, man, Kurt, that is so cool. Thank you, brother. I love you, man. That is amazing. You guys are just incredible. Oh, I mean, God, that's amazing. Kurt, you rock. Yeah, he does, lady. And special thank you. Oh, Don's in there. Hey, Don. Good to see you, brother. And happy Christmas Eve to you guys, all of you, and or whatever holiday you managed to celebrate. But I'll be back tomorrow night. So be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. And I'm gonna go watch a child destroy hours of rapping in mere moments. So, all right, you guys take care. Have a great night, and we'll be back tomorrow night for more of this mayhem we call the portal. So we'll see you guys.